All right, we'll go ahead and get things started here. If JR comes in, we'll let him jump in. If not, I think Jed and I will just kind of handle this. So let's call to order the July 2025 NAREMA meeting. First order of business is going to be approve the minutes from the March 6th, 2025 meeting. Danielle just printed off a copy. They were emailed out. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Any additions or corrections or comments pertaining to the published minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve? Josh, do I have a second?
All Guise.
Paul? Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes for the last meeting, March 6th. All those in favor, give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? You guys have it. Next thing I have is, please, everyone, if you haven't signed in on the clipboard here, please do so that we can accurately capture attendance for this meeting. Next order of business is going to be an update on the truck, and so we had everybody on board with that. At this point, every municipality should have received the memorandum of understanding for use of the truck. All right, I see a couple shaking out there. We have not.
Huntington has not.
Huntington has not.
I've not been told that York Springs does.
Okay.
I don't recall seeing it either.
Okay. All right. Well, that's why we're having this discussion. Can you refire that to the respective townships, please?
Yes, we can send it to, let's see, York Springs,
Looks like York Springs, Huntington, perhaps Menallen,
And
Butler.
York Springs, Butler,
Everyone.
Jed, refire it to everybody.
Just
and everybody
CC
else.
everyone.
Send her again.
Reply all.
When received by the municipalities, and be on the lookout for it, folks. If you don't see it the next week, please reach out to Jed and make sure you have it. Your tasking with that is to get that through your townships. All right, so vet that through your legal and see if your board will take action on that. See if there's any additions or any corrections that your municipality would like to publish and radio back out to Jed. We'll hand that off to Bernie. If they start trickling in, we'll hand that off to Bernie to have that reviewed at this level and then back out for review again at the municipalities. Any additional on the truck?
No, I think Josh is here, he can fill us in on anything additional.
To pass the bar.
Yep, pass it to Josh.
Pass the bar. Yeah, did you get an opportunity to print that out, Jed?
I have one copy for myself, but I think we can probably print some.
Yeah, we need to print it out and circulate that. They're looking for feedback on the agreement. So we did meet. We talked with Tyrone Township, gave our input on some things. They kicked it back to their attorney. Their attorney approved some things and had some questions on some things, but wanted more impact on what is currently written by all of the municipalities.
Okay.
So if we can get more copies of that. And
Now,
maybe-
my $500 printer died,
Oh, no.
which was wonderful. So anyway, I have one copy that I was able to get off. Can we make copies?
Yeah, just
Should I-
do. That's currently what was given back to us. And I talked with, before I came in, I talked with our board and I said, I need some answers and clarification on, is this the solidified, this is what we're doing? Or is this the, we need feedback? And it was the we need feedback. And I said, okay, I will take it and have them review it. And as long as everything is fine, we can say, okay, feedback has been given, we're fine with this, here it is, and let their solicitor deal with it from there.
I have a hunch this is going to look a lot like the whole
I would-
agreement to
I would agree.
be a part of the truck, so
I would agree.
I wouldn't expect this to look any differently.
Very, very.
Hopeful, but
I'll give Jet credit. Jet caught one thing so far, and it's a semantics thing. It's instead of replacing with a, like bringing the, how we talked about if you're gonna utilize it, make sure it has the fuel back in it.
mhm.
It was written as make sure it was returned with the full tank of gas. Well, we hope you're not putting gas in a diesel truck. So we had to adjust the verbiage
Okay,
to,
no, good call.
yeah, so.
That gets
Jed
very
goes-
expensive to
Yeah, Jed
repair.
goes, well, he goes, we might want to change it, so it's a full tank of fuel or a full tank of diesel as opposed to a full tank of gas. So, and I concurred, I said, yeah, well, that's a very fair statement, so.
We should probably invest in a $1.50 sticker to put at the tank that says diesel fuel
Yeah,
only
I
too.
would, I would,
That would probably save
Yes.
a lot of heartache down
yes,
the
it
road.
would.
Thank you very much.
All right, so be on the lookout for that. Any movement, I would imagine we're gonna have to have that in place, but any movement on equipping the truck?
So there is, so initially we talked about it, there is, some equipment in the truck currently. And that was roughly purchased when we bought the truck forever ago, fire extinguishers, some, equipment that was part of Jed's recommendation for the FEMA side. But as far as moving forward with radios or whatever else, computer setup, nothing has been done because we're waiting for this to be done to gather the input from every single person here, to include the fire chiefs, right? We wanna know what right looks like. We can build it all sorts of different ways, but is it functional and right is two totally different things.
Right.
So, yeah, it was like the course I was at this past month, it's like, give me the target to hit and we'll hit it. But if we don't have a target in sight, we're not gonna hit it. So, once we get through this next phase of the approval aspect, then we can all sit collectively, we'll bring it to one of the meetings,
Right.
we'll all go out, we'll talk about it, we'll see what makes sense, what do we need to operate, right?
Right.
So the back storage is full of, the stuff that the FEMA kind of suggested based on talking with Jed, but the command center inside, that's what we need to start talking about, what makes
Correct.
sense.
Draft a plan.
Correct.
Yep, what are we looking for? What do we
Because what
want,
may
need?
fit me may not
And then
fit.
break it down to how do we get this, where do we find this
Correct.
stuff?
Correct.
And I guess while we're talking about some of this stuff, what is the status of inspection and insurance on that?
It was
Because-
just, from my understanding, it was just redone.
Okay,
Because
so,
we just used it for that transformer fire issue. We had the truck out.
that may be something to discuss, give a couple of high-level bullet points on,
Sure.
on what we did with the truck at that site.
Yeah. It was a support.
Value added,
Yeah.
equipment from that incident that we may need to add to it.
Sure.
Gosh, I hate to say this, I hope that's it for MedEd's drama, but they're not doing very well right now, so,
Outdated infrastructure.
well, man, that's a mouthful there.
Yeah.
But I mean, you realize how fast this could happen, and,
But it
I mean, the
proved how
Ortana
fast-
sub fortunately is right outside of our boundaries, but our fire company would still be
Yeah.
responding to
And,
that.
and it's tough, it showed the vulnerability and the
Oh,
weakness
yeah.
of our current infrastructure.
Yep.
And so having things like that set up is good. And, the other thing something that I have to look into, or I want to look into with our building is creating that generating point where we can hook the truck up to the actual building. Because it has that onboard generator that we can power lights, water, whatever, should we need to, right? So I gotta talk to our township, it'd be smart for you guys to maybe look into something like that when this truck is up and operational. Because you can run stuff off of that generator on that truck,
Right.
so.
Understood. You said the inspection was just done on
Yeah,
it?
as far as I recall.
All right, look into that, and let us know, I
I'm
guess.
almost positive
because
it's just done.
If it didn't need anything, this is not a big deal.
It's-
It's usually a 25 or 30 buck charge,
What, maybe-
which we all would owe for, but if it needed tires or brakes
Yeah,
or
no, I think
something.
it was like wiper blades or something.
Okay,
Cause
yeah,
it sits
chicken
straight,
feed.
so.
yeah.
Luckily.
But I mean, at the end of the day, there's still municipalities that all
Sure.
owe a couple of dollars toward that. Which kind of, this is gonna be the first time since we've all been in agreement for the truck,
Sure.
that there's some kind of financial burden
Sure.
owed. So here we go, all right,
And-
so let's see what this looks like.
And the positive is, Tyrone Township recently redid their salt shed.
Mhm.
And, so now we have the area where the salt and all that is, but then behind it, the truck is now in an enclosed covered area. So it's a three-sided structure, but it's better than sitting out in the elements.
Okay.
So that kind of conquers that period of, hey, it needs to be underneath of something. So,
All right, so same stuff applies from the minutes last time of where we discussed where we can get some of this stuff, perhaps some government surplus, government outdated auctions, stuff like that, as well as some of the fire companies have some stuff sitting around that we can perhaps leverage them to donate or sell at way below market value to start outfitting our truck. But again, next thing, and now you folks have, everybody attending should have a hard copy of this. Get this back to your board, please, and start working that through its process of legal and comments from your peers. Safety vest doesn't apply. I think, Jed, I'm looking at a few things that look like they're down your lane, so if you're all right with it, you want to grab it from here?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, following up on our last meeting, there was a discussion of vests. There were tariffs that came in and all that, so I've held off. Next week, I will order some vests. They were distributed to some people, we'll get some more. Just delayed it because, whether it's a 300% tariff or a 30% tariff or whatever, makes, it's confusing. So anyway, we'll work that out next week and pay the 300% or the 30% or who knows. So we'll take care of it. ID, there's been no action on ID. We have some deputies who do not have ID. It's important to have ID in order to get through police lines, or specifically fire police. This is not a big deal like we're trying to make a big deal out of it, but we gotta have the ID. So it occurred to me, there's no reason, and in a few days I'll check with county to make sure that the ID machine is still broken. It's been broken for quite a while, unless it's been repaired. So, and I understand it's hard to get parts and all that and so forth. So, I'm thinking there's nothing to stop us issuing our own ID.
I was thinking that, and in hearing that, I'm sure Staples could do this for a couple of dollars a piece. You know what I mean? While the county's still fumbling this.
Right. So if you're amenable to that, I'll check with Staples or somebody in the next day or two or three.
I will always entertain a proposal for something like that. Yes, everybody, is that all right with everybody? Yeah.
So we have an agreement on ID.
I think so. Let's at least find out what they can provide for us, what the cost will be,
No,
and
it won't be much.
bring it back to the next
It
meeting.
won't be much, but, cause
I
I
agree.
know what the stuff costs, but I guess, now, of course, the answer is will the ID be any good? And the answer with that type of thing is, it will be if people accept it. There's your answer. So until we can get some ID from the state, we'll focus in on that. The plan, in the next 2 weeks, I'll be sending out a bunch of stuff relating to forms, duties, functions, responsibilities, and organization. These are all the things that are part of the plan. I'll send them out. They're really appendices. I've got them ready to go, so I will get them out after the 4th of July holiday. The actual plan, however, is still under construction. That's the official plan as opposed to the appendices. Now that'll be coming out in a few weeks, within 2 months. Of course, we have one already that covers this year, so it's not like there's any immediate problem, but we want to work forward and get it done. I'll be contacting people on potential emergencies. That's one of the things we do. We have this, of course, this stuff in the county on potential places to be aware of in case there's an emergency. But there are lots of other potential emergencies around. Not that many, but still enough.
Well, I think this, I don't know about everyone else, I guess this one the other night caught me a little off guard because that was, we've been looking at schools, we've been looking at some of these fruit plants and all that stuff, and
right.
here we are, with a curveball from the substation.
Well, I was in the transformer business for 4 years, making them and sending and selling them. Of course, obviously, I had 2,000 of my closest friends working with me, and I was in no way a significant person in that organization, but I was there. And so I'm somewhat familiar with transformers. And when that type of thing happens, it's the utility is the only one that can deal with it.
Correct.
However, now that it's over in the sense that it's no longer burning, we will need to check with the county and the state to make sure that everything that is a potential hazmat has been cleaned up. We want to verify that there is no hazmat. Sometimes transformers have hazmat in them, sometimes they don't, and they always have oil. So that also is a hazmat, but I was thinking of other things. So we need to check on that. We'll be checking to see if anybody has checked. And,
They did have an eco-environmental crew cleaning up the oil that you were talking about.
right?
I do know that, I did see them stationed, I drove past the other day and I saw them actively working. So I know there's a process taking place. I can follow up with you, I'll go out and take a look.
That'd be great.
So,
If you take a look, that'd be great. I'm gonna call the state.
yeah,
There is somebody at the state level.
I did talk with Kim as well, and she did verify there was a company that was on scene
Mhm.
while it was still actively burning as they were cleaning up at the same time.
That's good. Well, if you can check on that, that'd be good, and I might check around also.
Yeah.
Want to make absolutely certain that there's nothing there,
Sure.
because that a transformer can have nothing and no problem, or there can be problems. So we
Correct.
want to check, and this is not an emergency type of problem. This is something we want to look at for the long run.
Stay on that one, please, because that transformer was so old that it is very likely full of some PCBs.
Yep.
New transformers, not so much,
Oh,
but the older ones, and that one there, you know,
That was
the only surprising element to this is that transformer didn't give up the ghost a long time ago. It's been there, you know, longer than I've been walking the face of the earth.
Yes.
Well, they last forever unless they don't.
Yes.
The chain holding the gate shut is older than
Yeah.
We made them.
But that one may have some not very nice stuff in it.
Well, that's what I want to check on. Do you know the brand?
It was Alice Chalmers.
Alice.
Yes.
Stop it.
I swear to God, I have pictures of it. I got some buddies that were in and out of that sub. I didn't even know they made transformers until I saw that one prior to this.
Well, they were out of business in transformers a long time.
Yes, I would agree.
Just out of business.
I would agree.
So, yeah, that's all the more reason to just inquire about.
Up
this.
until I saw that one, you know, 8-10 months ago, I thought the only thing they ever made was tractors. I had no idea.
They made a lot of stuff.
I went up and looked at the nameplate on it. It was dated 1965. So they got their money out of it.
Well,
I hope the PUC is really hammering Med-Ed for their aged infrastructure. It's time. It's long overdue that they update their stuff.
We went by there today, they cleaned both side ditches, cross pipe, down the waterway, and cleaned, I'd say there's 8-10 roll-off dumpsters
Yep.
sitting back in the field with plastic over and covered.
You may, if you get a ride by or somebody does, get pictures, because oftentimes the dumpsters will have the company's name on the side of them. I know Viola is one of the ones that handles it, and there's a company out of New
She
Cumberland
said
that does
to me.
too.
Yeah, Kim told me that
Okay.
if I could get it. She told
I
me.
mean,
she
the good
said
thing is
Eco
that
something was.
The power companies are under a tremendous amount of scrutiny for this kind of stuff, so they will be held accountable by the PUC to clean this
Oh.
crap up.
Sure.
Rightfully so. But yeah, for follow-up purposes, I'm just trying to make your life a little easier. Like I said, there may be a name on the side of the dumpster you could reach out to, you know, and identify yourself and get an update, perhaps.
Yeah, you have to go back in the field to see it, because it got them set long ways, you don't see the sides of it.
Okay.
Oh,
Put on your orange vest and a hard hat. No one ever asks questions when you start nosing around dressed like that.
You gotta
Yeah,
have
the
something in your
address.
hand though. You gotta have a clipboard or something
Yeah.
in your hand.
we have the address for my GPS.
Of the substation?
Does he have a what?
The address.
It is
Oh,
Old
it's-
Carlisle and
It's
Route
it's-
34.
Yeah, it's literally right
Hit
across.
that intersection. You can't miss it. It's up on the hill on
Yeah.
Old Carlisle Road.
It's right along Gardner Station.
Yep,
Road.
it's right along Gardner Station Road. You know where well, yeah, I was gonna say you can see it from the medical facility.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check it out.
From there, you can
Obviously-
follow your nose.
You can't miss it yet.
Obviously, I got the call on this when I was with a 10-year-old in 100-degree heat, 8 hours away. So I was not exactly on the spot, although we had deputies on the spot. Now that I'm back, I want to make sure we understand what's going on. I would have rather been here than 100-degree heat, but that's a separate issue.
Jed, can I share two things to go along with the substation? So if you do not have the regional manager's cell phone or email address for Med-Ed, I'm happy to share that with anyone who needs that. He is our first contact for all of our municipalities locally, and he is happy to send out emails to us as well. he started sending out emails at 12:30 the night of the fire. And I keep that on my cell phone because our office was without power, so our secretary wouldn't have been able to contact him as well. And the second thing, anytime something like this happens, anything that you set up for your residents, whether it's a cooling station or anything that you're setting up first aid or anything, that information must be sent to Warren's office, and they keep track of all of that for the state.
Well, could you send me that, Meta?
Sure.
Now, do you have my email?
I do have your email, yes. I'm
If you
sure
send
that
that to me, it'll be very helpful, because as I said, now that I'm back. I
they're
wanna
very
follow.
responsive.
Okay, so anyway, we had the transformer issue, and that sort of gets into another issue. What should be our role in handling some of these major things? We can certainly document it, we can certainly show up, get information, we can follow up to make sure that there are cleanups. We can't prevent it. And I think that's about the best we can do.
I would agree.
Yeah, you're a liaison while you're there for your township.
Sure.
You know, that's what we talked about in the very beginning, is you're a liaison for your township. You know, so when I called you, I got the call, and they were like, hey, you need to get out there. And I'm like, well, interesting, I'm at IG training in Virginia. I said, well, let me call Jed, so I called Jed. But anyway, I ended up having our other deputy go down. But one of the things that they had access to was to control the oil that was, and apparently what I'm being told is it was mineral oil. I don't know what it, you know, I have to follow up a little bit more on it, but to control some of that flow so it doesn't breach the levee and it doesn't get into the water source, they wanted stone, dust, and or sand as an absorbent to help stop and control. So working with your local township as well, so my kind of caveat, my person that helps with me is also the roadmaster. So when Warren said, hey, we need a truck full of whatever, we were able to get a truck here, and it was on standby. Now, did we ultimately end up needing it? No, we were able to dike it around with the system that we had. But things like that, you're able to request those things and say, hey, this is what else we need. I caution that and caveat on that is saying, make sure you're dollar for dollar watching that, because Med Ed is gonna have to pay
Sure.
that. So in the heist of, hey, we need a truck here with sand, great, make sure you're notating that your sand is now part of this cleanup, which is reimbursable by that insurance. So, and that was what I had to reiterate to our guy, was like, hey, whatever you use, document it, because that has to get put through, because then you can hold them accountable on the insurance side.
I would be trying not only that, but the trucking costs and the
Manpower,
employee cost
yeah.
for the middle of the
Fuel
night.
cost, I mean, and
But
Kim
that's,
has a-
I mean, and based on this, you know, I guess the question is, Kenny, do you guys have sand or cracker dust here? I don't know off the top of my head if we
Not
have
right
anything
now.
that fine, but we should have a pile.
Yeah, you should have a pile,
Yeah.
and that was what we ran into, is we have the stone dust.
Mm-hmm,
The preferred was sand.
mm-hmm.
We didn't have sand. We have stone dust, which is equally, it'll you know, but that raises the question, like, should we have at least a dump truckload of sand? The answer is if you have the space,
Yeah,
probably, right?
and we do.
Yeah, like at least have something, because typically with oil spills, that's the first thing they look for is sand. You know, they want, because it's natural based, it's not gonna inhibit anything, you know, so, yeah, they usually want sand.
This
So-
is very unfortunate, because now when they put a transformer in, there's a containment pit required to go under it. So this wouldn't happen had
Correct,
they
this
had
wouldn't
a,
happen.
you know, one built in the last 25 years. This would, it never would look
Grandfather
like
and
lava
somebody
running
is
out.
Not always the best.
Okay?
Well, that probably is not the electrical business's greatest hour.
No.
So, but I get it.
I hope this is an eye-opener for that utility, I really do. And I hope the PUC is really putting some pressure on them to finally update.
Yeah, well,
They just paid a $330 million fine, that utility did, negotiated down from $1 billion. If they've got money for that, they've got money for a transformer. It's frustrating.
what voltage was that transformer?
I think it was distribution, so it's 12 kV on the low side. I think it's 115 on the high side.
Really? 150?
I think so.
That's pretty big.
It is. And there's more of that in that yard. There's several transmission circuits in that yard.
Well, hopefully they'll take a look at that before we get another one of those. And I'm sure they will, because this one will be expensive.
Yeah.
And do we have any idea when they'll get a new one in?
A year,
A
at
year?
least.
At least, I would agree with that. These are not run-of-the-mill, these are usually custom-made,
Every
which is why you
transformer
have
is
to do
custom.
this, prior to this type of event. You update them.
Yeah.
Um,
Every transformer is custom made,
Yep.
but you can substitute standard transformers if you have to.
It sounded like they were bringing in, that they had one on a trailer, they call it a mobile substation, but I
It's
don't
set
know.
up and hooked in.
It is, how much capacity does that have? Because I can't imagine that's got the same kind of current available that the stationary one does. It's much smaller and usually puts out less.
Another thing I found out from all this, telephones go down, internet goes down, because telephones are now using fiber optic, and you need current to do that.
Mhm.
Everything was dead.
A lot of those stations there should have backup generators. I mean, if you ride by one of those little brick, it used to be a Verizon building, it's tough to tell who owns it now, but there's an emergency generator there most of the time. So,
Well, there's a little substation up here, that didn't have a generator to it. There's a lot of them around.
They didn't have enough
God, what would we do without internet?
I Starlink.
My wife
That's
would be
almost
fine.
time to panic.
My
Right?
wife would be fine.
Back in the days of
She
Robert.
was-
We have to talk to one another or write a letter.
Okay, well, moving along, one of the things I'm going to be contacting people in the next 60 days is phone numbers. If we have a problem, we're not going to get anywhere without having phone numbers. So I'm trying to update that stuff and so forth. An issue that I've got is after I update these phone numbers, what do I do with them? Because, people are a little sensitive about having their phone numbers out there. And yet if I don't have your phone number, I can't call you. Well, that being the case, we also have an issue with, well, in addition to, I have this sheet of phone numbers. Who else should have that sheet of phone numbers? So I'm going to try and make sure I've got the phone numbers in case I have to reach people. But I think other people will also need the numbers. So,
I agree. I would think the deputies would be the number one on the list behind you.
and I would assume maybe the township secretary. Sound reasonable?
It does to me.
Well, anyway, there's no list to distribute right now. There is actually, I actually do have a list being revised. And what I'm really focused on are people's cell phones. It does no use, it's of no use to have the phone number from Menallen after, whatever time people leave the office.
Mhm.
So,
So if you have our cell phones and we leave here, then it works.
well, we'll see what we do. So anyway, that's it. And finally, getting back to collection of information. Yeah, as I said, we have this thing from the county that lists all of the hazmat and so forth. But there are other things, like, do we know where small children will gather if they have to evacuate the school? Because I guarantee that will be the first question people are going to be asking. And if they have to evacuate the school, are they going to walk along a path that hopefully is not along a road? And so we just want to find out what's going on. Of course, I've done this in the past, but it's always good to call people up and make sure that things are current and that everybody's on the ball. And similarly for daycare centers. And then we have nursing homes. Do we have the contact for the nursing home? We have at least one nursing home in this area. I'd have to go look at my list to say what more. And actually, the fire department goes in there every so often with its trucks to make sure they can do it, get in there, and follow up to make sure we've got complete knowledge. So anyway, that'll be part of it. And so when all that stuff is resolved, I'll put that in the plan, and then we'll distribute it. And as I say, this plan is, all of this information is gonna be confidential, as we all know, because there are lots of people now in the world who would like to know where all that stuff is. And they're not people who wish as well. So, we'll treat that as confidential. So, any questions? I'll be in contact with a lot of people in the next 60 days to ask you for information, see what you can help with, and we'll get it out there and off and rolling. And in the meantime, we're fully covered by the existing plan. So that's it for me.
Very good, thank you, nicely done. Thank you for everything you contribute here too. I think I'm gonna open it up to comments. It looks like we're about at that point. So we'll go around the room. Anybody got anything, questions, comments, concerns?
I'd like to know, this was an eye-opening event. Did our township's emergency power work? Because I think you suggested that this could be a cooling center. Was it needed? But everything worked? Does your area have a?
We use the fire company. Our generator powers the walk-in refrigerator, freezer, and air conditioning, but not the lights for some reason.
Right.
So we can only have the cooling station open during the day.
And I guess the same, it's like, how many townships were affected? Because did they all take a look back to see if they made it?
That's a good question. That's something, I mean, let's include that in the notes if we can, as a reminder to townships to see what their emergency status was, their emergency power status was during that event. Because it was a couple days up in Biggerville, wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe for like 3
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't affected, because we're all fed out of
And it's crazy,
Fortana.
'cause I mean, I was literally, I don't know, if city blocks, 2-3 blocks away, we
Yeah.
lost it for maybe 18 hours, and then they reverted power somewhere,
Right.
and it came back on. You know, it was fine for the rest of the time, but Biglerville was out. It's just interesting to see how that substation and what it powers and how it powers it. You would think with it being so close to my house, I figured that would be it, but apparently it was very minuscule. Because my neighbor at the top, who's the other end of Huntington, he lost it for 4 hours, 5 hours, and it was back on. So,
Under the circumstances, and prior to getting the mobile sub, the temporary transformer out there,
yeah.
they rerouted on distribution stuff, which is
Okay.
right out here on the poles.
Gotcha.
Their current configuration is abnormal. All right, so they're picking up what they can off other circuits, the other distribution circuits, and whatever they can off this temporary transformer. And I don't want to be doom and gloom here. I would just caution that there's still that risk until they get this back to a normal configuration.
And it's not gonna
There's
be-
still some risk. Okay, for this, we can run into another 7 or 8 days where it's in the mid-90s.
And there's gonna be a point where there is gonna be
Yes.
a couple day period, or at least a day period.
Well,
where
it's
they're doing
July.
the-
It's gonna
they're
happen.
doing the transformation of after repair. It's not gonna be repaired overnight, and with this heat, I don't know, I know that OSHA puts in standards for outdoor heating, like if you have employees that are out working in adverse heat, roofers, for instance, I know a buddy of mine who's a roofer, who OSHA was sending them letters. It's over 80 or 90 some degrees, can't be working, you'll get fined. So I'm sure there's probably something similar. I've gone past, I've seen some working, but I've seen more of the transfer running than I have seen working. So I'm assuming they're waiting for things to maybe cool down a little bit to get a lot of manpower in there to.
Well, that could be still going to be a question of parts, you know,
Yeah,
like we talked
absolutely.
about a minute ago, with
Absolutely.
over a year lead time on a transformer.
Yes,
And
that's
my point to
100%
this is
correct.
kind of, to municipalities that were affected by this, check your generator system,
Yep.
check your backup system, and it may be time to, have an internal discussion about putting in a cooling station, offering, the public to come in to cool off with some air, maybe some water, something along those lines. Because again, I think they've got this under control, but I would not say we're, 110% mitigated risk
Yeah,
at this
we're-
point.
we're
There's still a chance that this
still
goes
in yellow.
south.
We're definitely still
So
in yellow.
a good time for everyone to have that conversation.
So more of a circle or two. Do we have, as townships, a map of every cell tower? Do we know where they are, and do we know which ones last for 2 days, which will last a day, which are generated. I had Starlink, so with my little 3,600 kilowatt generator, I was online the whole time. But with my phone too. But I know a lot of these only have a couple days of either a couple days of fuel or a couple days. I don't know. Do we know that we have 24 hours of cell service and then we're done, or I have no idea. Are there maps? Do we know where these cell towers are? As a whole?
We know where most of them are in our town.
Yeah, but he's got a point. That's tribal knowledge. I was thinking the same thing. I know there's a couple in our township as well, but that's actually a good question. And, we talked a little bit ago about, Kenny brought it up, about who has backup power, who doesn't, because I'm assuming that most of these things got a little generator, but fuel, the runtime, all that's, something that we should probably know. In the event of something like this, we know, again, a guy like me, I've tossed the landline out of my house. This is all I have at this point. If I had to call for emergency services, is that going to be able to hit the tower that has power if the local ones run out? So there's probably something there.
County control has a generator, but the cell tower beside it is batteries. So how long they last, I don't know.
Yeah, but could my phone hit county's tower from where I live? I'm going to have to hit one in my area first, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know what, I'd have to look into it. I know it's different when, like, for instance, when they go into roaming, which is basically loss of,
Signal.
you can still,
The one at Upper Temple
Go
lost
through
cell towers, cell service.
and I don't know
for
how
half
or
a day,
why,
half a
but I
day.
know that you can.
And then later that day,
I don't
coming
know,
back
it's,
on,
like, for instance,
over my face.
phones that are shut off, that did, like, your old brick phone, if you still
Is
dial
that from
911
Upper Temple?
above,
Is
it'll
that from-
still pick up that.
Franklin's there.
I don't know why, I don't know
I
how.
think we get
I'll
both
look
of
into
them.
that.
Like, put the one
No, it's a good question.
feeding the campground.
Anything else? Go ahead.
So some solar people actually lost power as well, because apparently you need to have a battery backup
Yep.
if you have solar, and a lot of people must
Correct.
not have. And they weren't sure how long they would be able to keep their solar, but that's
Till
something
dark.
that you don't really think about it as well. And when something like this happens, reach out to your neighboring communities. East Berlin set up a cooling station for us by 6 a.m. the next morning because they knew that we were going to need help.
Nice.
They had all power.
Nice. Well, and here's a prime example where we can leverage one another, because Franklin wasn't affected by this. So there's, one of us internally, who's ready to go with some resources too. So there's something maybe, I don't know, Jed,
I think
what
it's
do they call it, the call roster, where people can start calling out for help. I mean, what they're saying makes sense. I figured that they didn't have power on some of these, but I never really thought that we do, and we're a resource.
Keep that list of phone numbers.
Okay.
And so we, depending upon how we can distribute that list, we got it all there.
Anything else? Go ahead.
Hi, I'm a resident in Huntington Township. I wanted to know, when they were in support of the people handling the transformer fire at the substation, how many hours was spent there? And then what duties did the deputies have when they were there? I mean, if they were there, say, 12 hours, did each township send their deputies, or how has that worked when there's an emergency of such magnitude?
Well, it should go to the deputy of that township. So in other words, Franklin, Butler weren't affected by this. You wouldn't send that deputy, but what is that, Tyrone?
It was Tyrone.
So Tyrone should have had their deputy on site. Now, you were out of pocket, but you
Yeah.
said you had a backup.
Yep.
And so that would be the question, what they did, how many hours, and maybe even a question to Jed as to whether or not Med-Ed can compensate them for that.
And
I
what
would
sort
imagine most of what they did there was
Support
documentation.
element. It was support element documentation.
When it comes to utilities are set up for this.
Yeah.
They've got environmental resources, they've got on-call folks to de-energize, to extinguish the fire. Obviously, you wouldn't want to spray that while it's still energized.
But specifically the NAREMA, what exactly, how do you define support? Like, exactly what kind of duties
I need a
are,
truck full of sand. Okay, Roger.
okay?
Each incident is going to be different,
Right,
unique.
yeah.
I mean, if you had an active shooter somewhere,
Right.
they're not gonna need a truckload of
Yeah,
sand.
They're not,
No.
they're not putting the fire out, but they're
So
saying.
it's tough to
what-
forecast.
yeah.
That's kind of the purpose of this is, collective resources.
So how does a deputy from NAREMA, how did they get their instructions? Is this from a fire chief in charge exactly? How do they get their, what's needed, et cetera? What's the communication level?
It's gonna start by them responding to the scene, to see what's going on, see where the needs are, what the needs are. So, after that, there's certain training that the deputies go through. Jet's got a whole bunch, Josh has got a whole bunch, and the other deputies have some. And so that's where they default back to their training.
Okay.
In this situation, this is how you respond, this is what you do. And again, what are the needs? There's really not any training, go fetch a truckload of sand.
Okay.
That's something that these guys are doing
It's a
just,
fluid situation.
right,
Okay.
thinking on their feet.
It's an active fluid situation. You're showing up as a resource to say, hey, your best interest is to make sure that everybody's safe, that we're following, what FEMA's looking for as far as our response levels. We're there as a support because, maybe you'll have another fire department that shows up that doesn't know that we have certain capabilities like that sand that they need. Hey, this is what I really need. Okay, great. Let me start working those resources. Let me start, you're basically a liaison between local government and emergency responders.
Okay. And if something happened in Huntington, would Tyrone deputy, whoever it is, bring the truck to Huntington, and then the Huntington deputy would be in charge of that truck, or is it Mr. Fitting who would be his responsibility to be there with the Huntington deputy?
Ideally, as all of us in an agreement for that truck, it would be the responsible deputy
Correct.
retrieving the truck, putting the truck in service. Now, if, you call over to Josh and he's 5 minutes away and he's got a minute to bring it to you to assist,
Okay,
again, kind of a fluid situation, but ideally, the deputy, where the problem is, would go get the truck and deploy.
oh, they would, oh, that's interesting, thank you. How many runs have they had since your last meeting in March? How many where they've supported an emergency?
Jet?
I think Josh would be able to answer that.
Yeah, so that truck was just deployed, so it was out at the most recent one, so one.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
The most recent power outage, so one.
So that was one since March, okay,
Correct. Yeah,
Thank
there's not been a major event that would require something like that.
thank goodness.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Some of the direction on these incidents is going to come from perhaps the county too, depending on the size. And the first one we deployed it on was the building collapse down your way. So why is it always your township?
I don't know.
What the hell's
I have no idea.
The first one they deployed it on, there was a fatality, so there was state, there was county involved. And then I always go back to the truck fire over here in Big Flat, where the county wasn't involved. We were kind of on our own for that one. But this last one, obviously, the county's going to be involved with that fire, the utility, other companies and folks are going to respond to that one too. So just depends who has command of that. Obviously, while the fire's still raging, the fire department's going to have command, and really that's their job. We start to come in when the fire company's rolling up the hoses and ready to head back to the firehouse. That's where we're going to be more effective. Because
Okay,
there's going to
thank
be
you.
long-term environmental issues, other stuff like that we've got to manage.
There's a lot of work after the flames go
Right.
out. And the fire department is not necessarily set up to handle that.
Not only that, but it's also not their, it's
It's
not their
not their job.
responsibility. Yeah,
But
I
to
mean,
put this into perspective, if you wind up with a hill, with a road, covered with oil, that's closed. You cannot have traffic go through there till you get that sand and until that sand gets dumped and cleaned up. So I have this with the fire department's done, but the oil is still there, the mess is still there, and it's gotta be clean.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Anything from anybody else? All right, what's the thoughts on the next meeting? So we were, let's see, March to July, 4 months roughly. If we do that again, that would make it November. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm saying that. October, November, any thoughts? Jed, you all right
Well,
with November?
I'm fine with November, but on the truck thing, we don't wanna wait till November, do we, for the truck? So-
No, well, then, you wanna receive comments from each municipality electronically, or would you rather
Yeah,
have a meeting?
I think, I think in terms of handling this, we get comments electronically from municipalities, work something up, circulate that, and then you could call an additional meeting once it's needed, if it's needed,
Okay.
and set a regular meeting for November.
All right, let's do that. Let me check my phone here. And Wednesday night, the first Wednesday night is working for everybody, isn't it? You got pretty good turnout tonight. That looks like that would make it the 5th of November. So we need a host. It'll still be 1,800, but we need a host. Who wants to host the next one? Paul volunteered.
It's fine with me.
No, that's the day after the election.
Hey, I just wanted to circle back around on something, just so it was, the clarity was there. I know the comment was made when they said that municipality would come and pick the truck up, and I had heard her go, that's interesting, I just wanna explain why why that's like that. The truck is not a responding truck, it's not a lights flashing, it's a follow-up support truck. So I just don't want the assumption to be, well, how did they get there and why aren't they there so fast? Because we're not firefighters, we're not EMS, we show up as a support, there's no urgent, when I say there's no urgency, I mean, an active situation is gonna be held by that first responder. It's not jump in a truck, lights and sirens and take off, it's not designed to be that way, for a lot of reasons, it's simply a support element and follow-up, so I just wanted to provide clarity as to why.
No, I appreciate that. You're right.
Why we're not first on scene is, you don't want me first on scene in a fire, because.
No, there's an emergency that needs to be handled. And when that's under control, command would then be handed over to one of the NAREMA deputies.
Correct.
And you had explained that. You
Okay.
had said that it's after the firefighters
Yes,
leave, et
that's
cetera,
right.
so thank you,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, and I would say,
You're welcome in Huntington. It's the day after the election. We're having some staff trouble right now, so if I find out that that doesn't suit, I will let you know.
that's fine. We'll have a backup. I think it's reasonable that by, let's say, end of August, comments from municipalities on the MOU. Is that fair? That gives us almost 2 months. You'll have a meeting that you can discuss this. Get comments back so that we can start working through them prior to the next meeting. I'd like to try and get that MOU up and running. We're in an agreement on the truck. Let's get the MOU done so that we can start to outfit that thing before it rusts into the ground. All right, let's get it deployed. So by end of August, have your comments from your municipality back to Jed, please. All right, get to the next meeting. That's the last item of business I have. Anything additional? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to
Josh, second. Kenny? Motion been made and second to adjourn. All those in favor, give your consent by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you, everybody, for your attendance. Nice seeing you.